What's going on, guys? Christian here with Ford Momentum. In the background here, we have my 1998 Lexus GS400, which has been manual swapped, supercharged, limited slip diff, all of those awesome mods. Go back and check out those episodes if you're interested. Now today's episode though is going to focus on the rear end of the car and the badges that come standard on the second gen GS and other Lexus models and even car models for that matter. Should you debadge, or should you leave the badges on, or should you take some of them off? Maybe we can help you here with that decision. Online, on my Facebook page and Instagram page, I never expected taking this L off would cause such a crap storm. There are opinions all over the spectrum, and frankly, a lot of the comments were absolutely hilarious. But first I want to discuss specifically what we're looking at. This L right here, which I have previously painted black. So I want you to picture this gold or chrome like most of them come, with some exceptions. There are some models out there that have kind of a black chrome look, which are awesome. But this one here has been painted. I've temporarily affixed it to the trunk because it has been previously removed. But I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to debadge the rear of your car, and then how to refinish the badge, and then how to put it back on again. So you can pick any of those combinations. You can debadge, you can paint your badge, you can rebadge, whatever you want to do. Now, over here, this is where it normally says GS400 or something along those lines, depending on what you drive. That was removed long ago. One of the main things about debadging is it going to ghost? And what we mean by ghosting is that there's a pattern left behind by years and years of car washes, UV damage, etc. I can't answer that question for you, but I can tell you what my experience is. These badges over here tend not to leave what I call ghosting. Those can be polished out, those will be clean. This one here, for some reason, it does tend to ghost. By the way, I have a temporary New Mexico plate on because it's part of my garage decor. I don't live in New Mexico, and this is not my plate.
Blue, yellow, pink. Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
Back to the badges. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a close look at debadging and then refinishing the badges and rebadging if you should choose to do so. First and foremost, you're going to need heat. You don't need a lot of it, so you could use a hairdryer or you could put your heat gun on low like I did, but you're going to need heat to get that pressure sensitive adhesive to release. Then what I tend to do is I start with a solvent or glue remover that is not very strong, and I work my way up. And believe it or not, WD-40 actually works really well. I mean, WD-40 works for everything, doesn't it? You start with this stuff, you soak it after you get the badge off, which we'll talk about, and then you can go to WD-40, and always applying heat, and not to exceed roughly about a 20 Fahrenheit delta. So you got to be real careful with heating your paint up too much. The rule of thumb that I follow is touch. So as I heat the surface up, I keep my fingers on it, and if it gets too hot to the touch, then I back off with the heat. But that is absolutely needed. You must have heat, or it's going to take you days to get this thing off. Next, I have these plastic trim removers from Harbor Freight. Well, I'm only showing one here because this is the one I used, but this is a great one. And I tend to use this side here because it doesn't scratch up your paint. These are the other ones you might want to use, so you could get one. They're like $5 at Harbor Freight. So just go get yourself a kit. And then next we have to reapply badges. You're going to need to order some of this. This is the 3M 5952, and it's intended for long-term placard adhering. So this is very cheap. I think it was $7 on Amazon delivered. We'll be using this to put the badge back on once I show you guys how to take it off. All right, over here would be if you're going to refinish the badge. You don't have to use this. This is just the combo that I use. What I like to do is take some acetone, and I like to use it to get rid of all the crap that's on the back and the front of the badge itself. And I'll use that a little bit more later. You're going to need a rag for that. And then over here would be the paint of choice. Plasti-Dip works pretty well. And then you're going to want to put a gloss clear or a flat clear or whatever kind of clear you want on top of that. Don't really need to prime it. And then right here is a sanding sponge and the sanding sponge or Brillo or sandpaper works great on the badge itself to prep it to take the paint. So that is if you're going to refinish the badges, you'll need those things or a combination of that. Now, once you have that badge off, and if you're going to keep it off or if you're going to put it back on, it doesn't really matter. You're probably going to want to polish that paint surface. And what I like to start with is pretty abrasive compound. I like the Chem Guys V32 through 38 system. And I kind of follow this pattern for cutting. I use a wool, then I use microfiber. This one works probably the best, the microfiber, but it does heat your paint up really fast, so watch this. And then I go to a finishing pad and then a final finishing pad for the 38. Now, before I do that, sometimes I use a clay bar on the little tiny bits that I couldn't get off. I'm not showing it here, but of course you'll need a lubricant if you're going to use a clay bar. Not entirely necessary, but I did want to put that on there. And then another microfiber towel to get the polish off each time. This is what I use. I use a drill, and I have this cool little pad here that will take any one of these, kind of a hook and loop system here. You can do this by hand as well if you want to. It's just a little more work. This was taken off and temporarily affixed just to demonstrate what I'm going to do. I would not get this close normally, but I would be using a low setting on the heat gun, and I'd probably be back pretty far like here. And then I'd be constantly touching the paint. And you really, again, I cannot stress the importance of heat. That will release the PSA or pressure sensitive adhesive, and it will leave quite a bit behind, but nonetheless, it will get this thing off. So you continuously heat this thing up. You can take floss once you get it heated up enough, and you can use the floss after you set down your heat to get this emblem off. Now, the good news about our emblem is there are no pegs, so you will not have holes left behind in case any of you are wondering. Again, this is temporary, so it's going to be super easy, but what you can do is take the floss and just very carefully work your way around, and there will be adhesive everywhere. Everywhere you see a structure here, there's going to be adhesive. So once you get it heated up, you can use the floss to kind of release it a little bit and pull out. And that should get it to start to go, but you got to be careful because you can bend this thing if you pull too hard. Let's demonstrate here. So I would go along and I'd be pulling on this, and eventually, using the right amount of force, it would start to release, kind of like this. And it would leave behind something, not this, but it would leave behind essentially a crusty emblem of adhesive. This stuff here, and you'll need a rag handy to wipe it up because it's going to drip down. So spray that down again, let it sit for a couple more minutes, apply a little more heat to it, keep going, making sure you're not getting that too hot, and continue with your finger if it's comfortable and not tearing your finger up to this if you're very careful. So you definitely don't want to gouge your paint. You want to make sure there's no metal bits or anything in here, and you can slowly start to make your way around with this. You can use the skinnier one if you want to, because this is the big one that was mainly intended for lifting the emblem off. So you can go to a skinnier version. That way you're not scraping up here for no reason. So something like this, that will keep you in line with where the emblem will go. So if you decide to rebadge in the future, you potentially would have only scratched where adhesive is going to go and where the emblem is going to go. Let's say that you were successful and you got it all off. Now I can tell you right now, you might not be able to see it on camera, but this absolutely is ghosted. It has micro scratches on the edges for whatever reason all the way around. And unless I cut the paint or repaint it, it's not gonna come off. So I'm gonna get some light and shine it on here so you can potentially see the ghosting that occurs. And keep in mind, this is after I've already used the polish on it and cut the paint and everything. That's why I'm gonna rebadge, is because it left behind quite the ghosting mark. So that gives you a good idea of what debadged looks like. This will give you an idea of what it looks like with, say, a black badge or a chrome badge. Now I'm gonna read some comments online to you guys, because they're absolutely hilarious, from my Facebook page. Like when you take the collar off a dog. It looks absolutely clean AF, my brother. Let them wonder what the F it is. LOL. I think it looks cleaner without it. And the only way I would put it back on is if you went with some black chrome sport design emblems. So they do have those, and They look fantastic, but they're pretty expensive, so keep that in mind. I debadge everything, even my Honda Odyssey. Love it. I also shaved the side markers and antenna on my MR2. Looks so much cleaner. I tend to agree with you. I would put a new style L badge, but in black. Looks nice with just the center emblem. I personally like the clean debadged look. Do that S on your Hyundai, man. And I responded with, did you read what I said? Because I said I was gonna put it back on. I don't even have a Hyundai. So this person says, put it back on. You'll never get those emblems in the same place again. I disagree. It's gonna ghost on you no matter what. And I can absolutely see it, even though you might not be able to see it on camera, perfectly. So I can align this when I reaffix it exactly where the factory emblem was. Now, if you have any question whatsoever about alignment, what you can do is put a small piece of tape before you remove this thing right up here as an alignment marker to, there's a little thing right here, like an indentation. You can align it with that, and that will help you get your emblem back on correctly. I like it debadged. Clean. Debadged equals poverty GS300. Looks way better with it on, and it will always get mistaken for a Mercedes. There was a reply to that comment, not me. Nobody who is in my circle of friends would ever mistake a Lexus for a Mercedes. Just got the GS back from the paint shop, and this person shows a picture of it completely debadged. It looks nice, but I would not do it, as everyone will think it's a GTR. What size exhaust tips? No question mark. And then I put a link to the exhaust tips video in the Facebook message. This person says, looks good, dude. There actually is a third gen who posted it on my Facebook post with the new Lexus written across the back, right here. I don't think that I want to take old school and mix it with new school. I kind of don't want to do that. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk through the steps to get this thing put back on. I got that ghosting on there, and it seems like most people, I don't know, 60% are for it being put back on. Now, I do have some comments from Instagram as well. Let me read off a few of those comments because these comments are witty and funny. I do listen to you guys, so when you guys say something, if it's not stupid, I definitely am listening and I take it into consideration. So let's take a look at Instagram right now and see what those comments were. If you want to follow me on Instagram, if you're not already, be sure to go down there and click the link. First comment, wonder how it would look with the new lettering they do, the Lexus across the middle. Yep, we discussed that. It's an interesting thought. It's definitely fire, but the L just finishes the classy look. This person says gold L is a must. Now, funny enough, this used to be gold. When I purchased this car, this one here was gold. It wasn't chrome, it was actually gold, and also my pinstriping was gold, so it all kind of tied together. Not too big on the gold look, frankly. Not for me. This person says, looks good to me. Fire. Then 3 fires. I like the L. It stands for quality and durability. Looks better with it, to be honest. Okay. Never liked the debadged look. I was really surprised to see the reactions to this online. I actually expected everyone to like it a lot because the rear of these cars looks really good in my opinion. It's one of the best angles of this car if you do it correctly. Now, I have raised my spoiler a bit, so you might not notice it, but I've raised it quite a bit, 1 inch in the rear of the spoiler mounting location, and I have yet to add real spacers there to make it look better. But I jacked it up to try to increase the downforce a little bit at higher speeds. I think what it's time to do is to get the black emblem put back on. And I'm not into putting the Toyota symbol on it for the JDM cars or for other cars around the world. I'm not really into that. I think if that's your thing, that's totally fine. I'm just not into doing the Toyota badges, even though it is a Toyota. But in the US domestic market, it is Lexus. Okay, now I did this in a bit in reverse order here. You gotta be really careful with acetone if you've already painted your emblem. Because if you just dump it on there, you're gonna ruin everything you just did on this side. So that being said, what I'm gonna do is I have these long Q-tips for detailing. I'm gonna get some acetone soaked on it, and I'm gonna make sure that I go through very carefully here on the back side with acetone so that I can affix successfully this 3M stuff. And you can see how dirty that is. It might be, some of that might be from the paint. Instead of acetone on this part, so I've already paint corrected this. I'm gonna put some of this stuff because it's a little bit less crazy than acetone. And then I'm gonna go around where the adhesive will be. Now some of these, you're actually gonna have to cut this thing in half, sort of. So you might have to split it. Should be left with something like this. Just look and make sure that none of it is bulging over the edge of the emblem. It's all exposed. So I'm looking at the ghost marks. And don't push until you're sure. There you have it, guys. How to debadge, rebadge, whatever you want to do. It's your car. You decide what looks best. I am interested in your comments, so if you leave a comment in the comment section about what you prefer on my car or on your own car, what kind of car do you have? Let us know if you've debadged it or taken them off, put them back on again. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and drop a comment. See you on the next episode.